almost everything now has become a signal. And the problem is not even that people want to communicate something about themselves. People have always done that. The problem is something else. Everything is a signal now. Not just Polish beauty, not just expensive taste. Messiness is a signal too. Tiredness is a signal. I didn't even try is a signal. Even not wanting to be seen turns very quickly into a style people know how to read. That's what makes me interesting, because at least before you could still tell where the display window was. Now the display window is everywhere. Clean girl, office siren, quiet luxury, the whole I just threw this on look, deliberate exhaustion, deliberate disorder. Even the refusal to play the game already looks like a perfectly legible move inside the game. That's what gets tiring. The structure is always the same. It doesn't matter whether someone looks polished, expensive, ironic, detached, or exhausted. The whole thing is built to be read from outside. Then the mechanism has changed. It's still a signal. The costume changes, but the mechanism stays the same. That's why I get less and less interested in fashion in the ordinary sense. Something else is more interesting now. What, if anything, is left that does not exist for the outside gaze? What is left that is not made to be decoded, admired, classified, understood in 3 seconds? That's where I start thinking about t-shirts. Not as style, not as performance, definitely not as irony. Irony mostly bores me. Too often is just aggression in good packaging, a socially acceptable way to bite the world and pretend it's intelligence. That's not what I want. What matters to me is whether something works on me, not on them. That's the difference. I don't need a shirt to explain me to the public. I don't need anybody to read it correctly, admire it, fear it, or mentally applaud it. I want the words to go inward, even if nobody sees them, even if there are 25 layers on top. It changes nothing. I know what is there. I feel it. It works on me. That's not a signal. That is a code. And that to me is the line that has almost disappeared. I see a signal is made for the outside. A code can exist without an audience. A signal asks to be read. A code does not ask for anything. It just does its work. That's why this bothers me, not because I'm anti-fashion, not because I think the old days were somehow purer. Nothing so sentimental. It bothers me because too much now is made to be instantly legible. And anything that becomes legible too quickly becomes marketable too quickly. A style, a type, a category, a product. One more easy way to explain a person without even getting near them. And this goes way beyond clothes. Clothes are just the easiest example. The mechanism's larger than that. More and more often people are not exactly living, they're managing their impression of themselves. Even when they pretend they are not controlling anything, Even when the whole posture is built around, I'm not playing this game, that too has already become part of the game. Yes, it already become part of the game. And it's just a different genre. There is something darkly funny about it. Someone says, I don't care. And that, I don't care, is instantly readable. Someone wants to look like they are outside the system, and the system already knows exactly how to package that, sell it, and send it back as another aesthetic type. Everything gets caught, everything gets translated, everything can become signal. So the real question for me is no longer who is well dressed and who is not. The real question is what. In a world where almost everything has become message, can still remain code. Not a slogan, not a role, not ironic armor, not a well-staged look who I am, something quieter than that, something personal, something not designed for the room. At that point, it stops being about fashion. It becomes about scarcity. Because what is rare now is not originality. There is plenty of that. It's not boldness either. There is plenty of that too. What is rare is anything that does not need a viewer. Anything that does not need to be understood immediately. Anything that does not turn itself into explanation. And honestly, that is what feels luxurious now. Not visibility, not a stronger image, and not a sharper signal, but the thing you keep for yourself. Almost everything now pushes outward, fast, readable, presentable, beautiful, or deliberately unbeautiful, which often amounts to the same thing. Against that backdrop, anything that refuses the marketplace of the gaze starts to feel rare. That's why the idea of a personal code interests me so much. Not a message, not a performance, not a small war against the world. A thing that does not need explaining. A thing that does not need to be read. A thing that exists between a person and themselves. That is what interests me now. Not how to look, not how to signal, not how to be understood, but what can still be worn, held, chosen, not for them, but for yourself. Because when almost everything has become signal, the rarest thing is no longer visibility. The rare thing is to leave something unclaimed by the public.